All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Countrywide Coordinator Training with Anna Maria Reisinger. Today is Thursday, July 31st, 2025, and welcome to all of our visitors tonight. People are still just kind of hopping in. All right, Anna, what a busy day you've had. I mean, I almost feel guilty, right? Talk to us. What's happening?
Oh, well, what isn't happening? Let's see. The Trump administration is trying to pull another fast one. They just don't seem to kind of come to terms with reality very well. We have, for our part, been very patient and have done everything by the book. We have given them notice and notice of intent, and we have pretty much laid out the cause for what we're doing. And the entire world has that in front of them now. And still, today, I had to take time out and issue another international public notice to Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, because they're going to try, at this late date, they're going to actually try their version of a birth bonding program. And they're presenting it as, oh, we're going to make up accounts for everybody, treasury accounts for everybody, and we're going to give every new baby $1,000. And, if this were in good faith, if this were really what they were presenting it as, it would be great, What new parents wouldn't love having an extra $1,000? But it's not in good faith. And that's the problem. They are taking over from the Pope and trying to run the same scam and get the same interest in the newborn and their estate, and for even less money, and even not even money, just the victim's own credit is being used as the snare. And so it was really offensive to see that they were putting this up as a new program and trying to characterize it as something to encourage savings and a better understanding of money and so on and so forth, trying to normalize it and not disclose what they were doing. And so suffice it to say, Grandma was pretty hot already by 6 o'clock this morning. And I was busily writing a reply and counter offer to Mr. Bessent. I'm stunned always by the gross arrogance of our employees who think that we're stupid because we've been asleep. And I'm sorry, someone who is asleep is not the same as someone who's awake. And the whole idea that we wouldn't understand what they were doing and that they could just, pull this off was offensive to me. They owe us.
How did you find out about this new birth bond program in the first place? I mean, are they required to notify you because of the jurisdiction that you're holding and, your role with the Federation and the United States of America?
Well, this was just presented in a kind of offhand press release from the Secretary of the Treasury. And he was making it sound like this was just a nice little giveaway to encourage young people to, understand money better and, participate more intelligently in the economy. And that this is not what it is. It's just a rehash of the old birth bond scam that the Pope was promoting for so many years. Only now they're going to try to promote it through the U.S. Treasury. Anyway, it was enough to make me considerably hotter than my coffee this morning.
Well, thank you for taking immediate action on course correcting Scott Bessent and his entire department and getting that out. Yeah. I don't know how you do it, honestly. all like this obscure little press release, and you were like, that's it, hold on, stop the presses, here I go, into immediate action, taking, doing what you do. It's amazing. God always puts you in just the exact perfect right place to put your eyes on what you need to read and do, and then like this. And last week there was that whole thing going around. It was like all over the internet, right? That the Supreme Court just decided on this case regarding unborn lives, and that about protecting persons in the womb, right? Of course, red alert, red alert, red alert, persons, right? So what was your take on that situation?
Exactly, as you say, once you know the jargon, everything takes on a different meaning, right? It's just like hearing yourself described as a human with human rights, you know, and you're left standing there going, not me, Bugs. I'm not part of the citizenry. I'm not a public employee. Sorry, you know. Um, a lot of this stuff is just about them. As I've told everybody for years now, only about 8% of all federal code has anything that can touch us. And so the vast majority of the stuff that they do does not affect us. And if we are effective in drawing a line between us and the federal franchises they've named after us, there's really no excuse for them to even address us or say word one to us about 90% of this stuff.
Well, they usually do everything by consent, and coercion, but people don't always know that they're being coerced. You know what I mean? How much time do we have with you tonight? And did you want to go to questions, or was there a lesson that you have for us?
Well, just keep your ears perked up and your eyes open, because there's all sorts of commercial scams out there now. I mean, it is terrible what they're doing. Every kind of commercial fraud and scam you can think of, they're trying to pull. There's people all over this country that are trying to get people to buy delinquent tax interest. And as I described to you last week, property taxes are basically misrepresented as pertaining to your private land, but actually pertain to the public easements, the road easements that abut and run alongside your property. And the only way they get away with enforcing those, as if they pertain to your property, is if you fail to do your own meets and bounds survey and record your own interest and name your property what you want to name it. They can't take your land, your private property, your house for back taxes, as long as you make that demarcation and separately survey your land as a parcel apart from the public road easement, and rename that parcel as your parcel and record it with the DNR.
Yeah, and that bucolic law site, right, that Nethi set up?
Yeah, Nethi has a site there where you can not only do this, but you can also claim your US patent, your land patent, or your land grant, which underlines the patent or underlies the patent. And you could also certainly, record your survey, your meets and bounds survey, your geological and geographical survey of your land with the local Department of Natural Resources, and give them fair warning and notice that, okay, yeah, well, guess what? Here's a land recording. It's a meets and bounds survey. Here are what my property markers look like. This property that was formerly known as 5250 Morningside Drive is now known as as a separate parcel, is a separate parcel from that, and is known as 4822 Sunnydale Road, whatever, make up your own name for your own parcel of land and do a separate survey that does not include the road easement or any electrical easement, and make up your own little property boundary markers. It could be, orange stakes, whatever you choose, as your property markers that demark your land as apart from their land, okay? In my case, for example, I have a post, and the front side of the post facing the road easement shows their house and property number, 2390 South Park Road. And the side facing my driveway, going into my private property, right, shows 4711 Birchwood Road. Okay, so there's a clear demarcation between the public and the private. And they can't use the public easement to assume an attachment to my land, because I've made a demarcation and I've recorded it with the Department of Natural Resources. You know, I've made a meets and bounds survey and separated my land from their public interest, the road easement. And if you don't do that, then they just consider that whole thing as one parcel, and they take your home and land as if it belonged to the state of state or the municipality or whomever, because you didn't make the effort to say, okay, well, my land runs from, you know, and you just, the road easement is typically 16 or 20 feet from the center of the street on each side.
Wait, what was the number of feet on that?
16 or 20, depending on which state you're in. Okay, but the road easement is what they maintain. The road easement is what they come by and they brush and they cut the grass on it occasionally. And, you know, it's usually pretty easy to determine where the road easement is simply because they maintain their road easements. And you can look up what the road easement on your road is so you know specifically, you know, and just measure back, take one of those big yellow cloth tape measures that comes on a reel. You can buy them at any hardware store. You can get 100-foot tapes. You can get 300-foot tapes. And, you know, grab your son, your daughter, or a friend, or, you know, just, yep, absolutely. Just start on one end and measure it out and do your walkabout.
Well,
And I say,
I have a question, Anna, because there were, you know, Hollywood often, movies and things, entertainment mimics real life. And I got to thinking as you were talking that there were like famous or well-known ranches like Tara in Gone with the Wind,
mm-hmm.
you know, or, you know, Green Acres, or even in real life examples like Monticello. Is it Monticello or Monticello? I forget how they say it, but or like Neverland or whatever, when Michael Jackson had Neverland and things like this, right? So I'm wondering if that's a thing too, is giving the land its own like actual name,
yes.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise their land description stands for your land and there's nothing else to stand for it. So that's how they get away with seizing upon your land. It's,
right.
You know, they just arbitrarily establish and name and number their road easement in front of your property. That's what they're doing. They go around and they just send a little girl around with a clipboard and she makes it up, literally out of her own head. She comes up with a number and a description of your property and assigns it to the road easement in front of your property. And if you don't then do your part and do a survey of your property, a meets and bounds survey at least of your property, and define where your property is separate from the road easement, they'll just claim the whole parcel and take it. So this is important, guys. And if the state of state employee or the municipal employee who comes around and does this work comes by and calls your parcel, okay, well, this is 22 Sprucewood Road, okay? Oh, great. Well, I'm glad that's what you call it. Now I'm going to change the description. I'm going to do a different survey showing exactly where my land is apart from the road survey, the parcel, the road easement. And I'm going to name it, Country Lane Road, and I'm going to call it, I think I'm going to call it 3230 Country Lane Road, okay? My driveway becomes the road, okay? And so suddenly there's this other parcel there that is not part of their system, that is, defined apart from their system.
This is really huge because as people purchase what they think they're they think they're purchasing a home, right? They think they're purchasing a piece of land or property. What they're really only purchasing is the address, the name of the address, right? And then they have to pay these things called property taxes. But really, it's all based on a fraudulent address system. And I'm not sure if you've heard of this Mockingbird Properties. I'm going to drop a link into the chat. This guy, Mitch Vexler, I think he has the funniest last name. I think he's vexing the whole system. But he talks about the fraud of property taxes. And, these developers come in, they stake their claim on some land. They work with the municipal system to develop it. They add these addresses. They get these addresses approved of and mapped out on these plot maps. And then they end up doing like, what they call, quote, improvements on the land. But because you have to tie your improvements to their little address system, or you're told you do, you're told you have to get a permit, you're told you have to have this address, then they can charge you for it because you're essentially using the privilege of their address, right? And anyway, so that whole fraud. Wait, did Anna drop off? Where'd you go, Anna? Are you still here? You were right next to me on the screen, and now I don't see you anymore. I think Anna accidentally dropped off. Let's see. Oh my goodness gracious.
Michelle, Anna happened to mention recently that you could say in your property description that you were not including public.
Not including public property.
I think you should verify that. I yield.
Yeah, and their definition of including is different than the common sense definition of including. That's another thing that drives me batty is when they use words in the opposite. If you ever read like one of these commercial contracts and it defines what you means. You means this, I means that, we means blah, blah, blah. And then if you ever have to write them and you use those words in a commonsensical way, they can claim that what you're saying makes no sense. Why? Because ultimately you're using your own words from your own perspective as opposed to how they define we, us, our, you, they, That's so lame. Anyway, it's all that trickery. All right, I don't know where Anna went, y'all. And I know we've got a bunch of hands up that are for Anna. So
Excuse me, may I?
yeah, please go ahead, Kimberly.
Hi, thank you so much. I have been actually doing the process with the land patent stuff, and I actually could show an example of what I did with my meets and bounds and marking the corners. The example I can show you is not the final product, but at least it's a step to show what I've done. If you'd like me to do that, I'd be happy to show that a moment.
Yeah, that would be great. Is it something that you want to screen share?
Sure, that would be great if that's okay.
Yeah. Okay, and here comes Anna too, but
So this is what I went ahead and did with mine. Can you see that okay?
I sure can. That looks
So
great.
what I went, yeah, I had a survey that I had done on the first parcel, which actually in here is parcel B, and I was able to procure the land parcel next to me. And so when we were able to do that, I've gone ahead and done the reclaiming on this. So as I said, I've had a bit of a technical issue and I don't actually have the final, which is got a notary stamp on it. I've written all over it, basically put my own mark on this and so forth. But this is where we went ahead, and I'm not sure what you can see here, but over to the right where it's got the 33 feet. I think I'll see if I can, no, I can't get it to do anything specific, but basically on the right, you can see just left of where it says 152nd Avenue, there's a space there that has 33 feet. And that's where I've removed the road easement. And we've gone ahead and on all of our length lines that way, we've gone ahead and shorted those distances by that 33 feet. And then I'm going to go ahead and scroll up just a second because the written part that went with it, again, I've changed it slightly because none of my neighbors were interested in actually autographing it. So I pulled some of those things back out of it. But this is where I went ahead and actually started to just claim this and, you know, put it up there that this is something that is outside of the road easement. And I literally took the description from what was on the deeds and what was on with the township. And I went ahead and I added the bounds back into it. They put the meets in, and this is how I see that they have actually captured us, is that they do the language in their terms, basically minus the boundaries. And so by putting those boundaries back in, declaring this as a meets and bounds survey, I just kind of went in and just kept going with it. And then it took 2 pages for mine. But then I went ahead, as I said, and I had it witnessed, I had it notarized, and then I did my my own seal and so forth with that. So I did follow Anna's article. I believe it was the 123 land. It's something close to that. 1254, I got told across the room. And so we have gone ahead and actually did file the whole process up with the town, with the county, basically on June 17th. And so I have I renamed it, and I have taken it to the postmaster, and I have taken it up and had it put on the record with the county and at a public meeting in one of the townships, and they are still completely ignoring everything. So I am I've got one more thing I've got to get to the Department of Natural Resources. We just finished up the survey. So now the letter is going to be going over to the Department of Natural Resources with all of this. So yeah, that's where this is. I'm going to stop sharing and then I'll show you the one other thing that Anna had suggested that we had put on. And that was to identify your corners. So forgive me one second as I'm getting to see this. And sorry, it's sideways. Let me see if I can, I don't think I can actually shift it. But basically what I did is I went through and I just marked each pin and put what it was and then where it was on its own map. And clearly identified. We'll do some a bit nicer marker here monuments on these, but you know, these are where the pins are marked currently. And so, yeah, it's a fun process when you're not being hassled or aggravated. It's really amazing what you learn about your land. President Lincoln was the one that did the land grant for these 2 properties, and President Polk has done my other property, which I have also done the survey. It's not quite as when I say as professional, I spent a lot of time on this one trying to make sure that it had it looked decent. The other one, I actually just took an old one and just wrote all over it with hand because I ran out of time. And so it's still, as far as I'm concerned, good enough. And so that's where I sit with this. And my county is just completely, in my opinion, compromised, and they won't acknowledge any of this at this part. So I'm still fighting and still rebutting, and they're still coming like just crazy. So yeah, that's where I am. But I wanted to show that to just give people hope that it's possible. You can do it, and it's not as hard. So
No, it's not.
Thank you. I yield.
Hard. And you renamed the parcel and you've recorded it with DNR or are about to record it with DNR?
Forgive me. Hang on one second. I couldn't hear you quite well. Could you please repeat that? I'm so sorry.
I was asking if you had finished recording with the Department of Natural Resources.
That's this week. I was able to just finish the survey parts of things and get all of the other details that were on your lists in the other article. So that was my last one about to go to. How does one actually register that with the DNR? Do they have a clerk's office that you do that with, or what would that look like? Just send them a notice?
No, they have a state land recording office. They're
Okay.
required by law to have a state land recording office, at least one, okay? Now, you may have to travel. They used to be common as dirt. You used to have land recording offices in every county courthouse. And
Okay.
some places they still do. So you're going to be looking for a Department of Natural Resources land recording office. All right. And that's where you go
Okay.
in and you record all the information you've created. And when you do that, the only other suggestion I can think of off the top of my head is to also fully inform the Department of Public Safety,
Okay.
because the Department of Public Safety is ultimately the one that has to put their neck on the line for enforcement. And when they see that you have clearly delineated and recorded over any registration description, anything that has been described by the municipality or the county or whoever is doing this in your area, they will not enforce against you.
Okay.
So that takes away their enforcement power. And even more so, every day that goes by, the federal government and the corporations, the vendors of government services, are losing more and more and more enforcement power. And they're becoming much more wary of going onto somebody's private land and trespassing against them. So enough has happened in the courts now, so that it's kind of put the fear of God in a lot of these individual little enclaves that have been doing this to us all these years. There are some exceptions. There are some states that are worse than others. Certainly Arkansas has a very bad reputation for corruption. But most states now are getting the message of leave these people alone. They're peaceful. They're not doing anything that's wrong. They have defined their private property interest and taken it out of the public property pool, so to speak. Clearly defined what their private interest is, and they've recorded it, and they've given it a new name and a description that is unique. And there really isn't anything they can do about it, because you're simply doing what they did. You see.
May I ask then, because I am getting complete resistance, Anna. In fact, they unleashed the last utility on me this past week, and I've gotten another letter from them basically scolding me and telling me what I have to do. So I'm in the process of rebutting this right now. But basically, they are firmly, they just keep coming and coming. And yeah, at this point, if I mean, I'm quite nervous, I have to say. I mean, I've taken this to the postmaster. She won't update the address because she says the county has to do that. So I took it to the county. I gave it to them. They've received it. I have the stamp on it. And then I went to a public meeting and I put it on the record there with several other things, and they cut my mic, and then they totally made their minutes wrong on anything I told them. So I am really having a problem here on Ottawa County on Michigan. These folks are coming at me. I've engaged my congressman and I requested a meeting with Trump. Trump basically said no, he didn't have time. And it was a local issue, to which I basically said, no, that may be playing out on the local issue, but it's you, the commander in chief, that basically just allowed a military court to run on me. And why the gold fringe, and what's going on? So even today, they have everything on the case that I've been in with regard to, standing on this property. They've rejected absolutely everything. They've acted as if I haven't done it. And I have a letter here today basically saying that they will only talk to me. And they had the state come in and actually rule for them to say that I have to file everything by e-file. And I'm not allowed to put anything into the court at all. So this is so preposterous at this point. And the day that I actually recorded the documents I just had there, I actually got pushed around by the clerk himself. He was on my side of the window. He was pushing my things. I had to ask him to stop touching my things, and he was kicking stuff over. He obstructed. They called the sheriff on me. We were there for 5 hours. I mean, it was insane what I went through there, and they're just not backing down. I mean, everything I have done, I mean, I've showed them over and over my paperwork, and I've tried to make appointments with the sheriff. He won't see me. It's like, you guys, what is going on here? So I'm genuinely having a huge problem here.
Well, contact the Department of Public Safety and lodge a complaint. against them.
Okay, okay. Thank you. I will do that.
That should calm things down considerably and right about now.
Okay, very good.
And the complaint that you should lodge against them should include assault,
Okay,
and it should include attempted invasion of private property and trespass. It should include false claims in commerce, misrepresentation of public interest.
thank you.
You know, call it for what it is. They're trying to pretend that they have a public interest in your private property that they don't have. And what they're resisting is you recognizing the fact of their illegal latching activity.
Oh, yes.
They've been illegally latching onto your land and using it as collateral for their borrowing. And that's why they're so desperate.
Yes. Yes. And I've done 3 properties simultaneously because they've been trying to steal them for 20 years. And I basically was winning just on principle prior to learning about you. And thank you, God, for Anna and everything you bring us. Thank you. But now obviously I've got status and standing, and in time it will show out as being what it is. And it's just trying to survive the onslaughts as we have right now. So I will say that this county is just so egregious that I just passed my 2-year mark without water utility in one of my homes for having refused a smart meter. And so this is the same township that basically cut my mic when I came to report crime that I'm not allowed to report. And when I called the FBI the other day, I was met with that the only code that they could enforce was 666. I'm like, are you kidding me with this right now? And she's like, nope, that's all we can do. Like, huh. Yeah, okay. Thanks very much. So I got a lot of weird stuff going on around me, and I really am hoping to survive through all of this. So thank you for taking a moment to talk with me. I want to yield and give you the floor for the things that you need to discuss beyond this. Thank you just for everything. I will go after the public safety reporting here, and I will get that DNR letter off, and I'll keep you posted as to what's going on. But thank you for everything you've given us so far, especially me in this. I appreciate you, and I will yield on that. Thank you.
Take care. We'll be thinking of you.
Appreciate that. Thinking of you too.
Yeah, and at least they tell you who they are with that 666 business. When they tell you who, believe them.
Right, exactly. Thank you.
Well, what code 666 is a master account number in the world accounting system.
Yeah, there's those odd numbers and those even numbers, right, Anna?
So when they say they're enforcing code 666, they're addressing that specific account. And so what they're telling you is they're enforcing a claim by a bank.
They said it was bribery was the 666 code. That's what she told me.
Bribery.
Yep, that's what she said it was attached to, was the 666. Was it 186? I don't have it written right in front of me. I didn't expect to be talking to you. Forgive me. I didn't have it right ready. But yeah, I think it was 18 USC 666. That's what I thought she had said.
We'll just have to take a look at that. If it's a federal code, why is the county enforcing it?
This would be the FBI that I was suggested to call by PKTF. So I made that call on that suggestion and was basically met with a callback that said that was the only thing that that office was capable of doing in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And it was bribery.
Bribery.
Yep, I'll look it up. And she's like, does that have anything to do with bribery? I was like, well, really, it's kind of more like treason.
Yeah, well, think about it in terms of bribery too.
Yep. I just didn't feel real comfortable going through a 666, so I sort of backed down like Michelle advised. You run into the devil and you like take them for their words. So yeah, I kind of backed down on that.
Bribery, it's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
Like, as if you were trying to bribe the local officials into getting out of your taxation instead of claiming your exemption.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, interestingly, because I conducted that one transaction in silver with them that left them hanging, they owe me 44 cents in silver to all the property tax that they like. I think I still trump them with the 44 cents that they owe me. It'll be
Well,
interesting.
anything positive is more than something negative, right?
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate all your time, Anna. I will go ahead and yield so you can get on to other people's very valuable time. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Kimberly. And really quick, I just have to add this whole thing about if you hope you survive, you hope you survive this. So I just want you to know the one that made you, okay, is way more powerful than any ridiculous devil that's trying to engage in all of this shenanigans. So hope is fine. I support that, you know, but just know you've got this, girl. We don't need to be afraid of these devils anymore. Those days are over. Fear is a liar, a big fat liar. So sorry, we don't tolerate lies anymore. Do what Hunter says, to the hand. Talk to the hand.
Yeah, right. Well,
Right.
a lie is just a lie.
Mm-hmm. All right, very valuable information. Thank you so much for bringing that forth, Kimberly. And I don't know about you, but a lot of people I think on this call would love it if you would, you know, if there's a way you could turn that into a class and the step-by-step stuff. And yeah, amazing that you've gone as far as you have gone, and God be with you. I think it's amazing.
Thank you. We're working on that so we can make it that others can have a better path too. So absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Get public safety at the state level to start cranking down on them.
I will. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Anna. Blessings.
Well, and it was a perfect segue, Anna, because when you accidentally kind of dropped off, you know, Kimberly was able to do that screen share and get us all caught up to date on what's going on with her process of her land claim and all of that. So welcome back. Welcome back. So would you believe, all right, so now it's almost 20 minutes past the hour. So I wanted to check in once again. How much time do we have? Are we on a lesson or did you want to go to questions?
Well, that was quite a lesson that we spent an hour on there. And hopefully everybody heard it and gained some insight into how it works and why it's important, and are now aware of some of the flea bag organizations, the carpetbaggers that are popping up and trying to get people to invest in delinquent tax liens. If this was such a good, solid investment, why isn't the state pursuing it? Why isn't the municipality pursuing it? Why is it down to private investors buying these bogus tax liens and trying to enforce them against people? Okay. Next question.
All right. Well, the first hand we have up is Dave. Go ahead.
Hey, Anna. Thank you for taking my question here. It's a very quick one. About a week ago, you mentioned that that you're still working on some bank treaties to get the GFG thing going, and you were converting the red banks to the blue banks, and that currently we control roughly 10% of the banks. If that's the case, I'm just curious, if we finished everything on the banking side and the programming side and everything, what exactly is the holdup from actually pulling the ripcord at this point?
It's just a matter of being able to connect effectively to the existing bank transfer mechanism, which is privately owned, but which has recently been taken over by President Trump. We've been the victims of what I call a transfer monopoly. And it's basically the same exact thing that Standard Oil was busted on. They had a pipeline network that connected oil producers to refineries, and they monopolized their pipeline connections and used it coercively, so that they became a coercive monopoly, and they were busted in the 1920s for it under the Sherman Antitrust Act. Well, that didn't really discourage Mr. J.D. Rockefeller all that much. he just hiked his skirts and moved to Europe and did the same exact thing with banking. And he established another transfer monopoly known as the SWIFT system. Now, this was privately owned, and it was for profit, and it controlled the majority of bank transfers worldwide. And Mr. Trump just now, within the last week or so, took over the SWIFT transfer monopoly. It's still a monopoly. It still can be operated as a monopoly. And the big question is, how is he going to operate it? And we're not, ourselves, we're not dependent on the SWIFT system at all, but so many other people are, that it does remain a condition or a objective to settle out the use of the SWIFT monopoly system and to bust that monopoly, frankly. So right now, the name of the game is to bust the monopoly or convert the banks. And that has nothing to do with Hunter. Hunter's golden.
Right. But my question to you is, how would we be able to, if we're going to essentially be purchasing things, let's say from Walmart or Home Depot, and we're working with prepaid credit or AFDs, how, if the FRN system is going to go kaput, because I know you feel that Trump is going to cause hyperinflation intentionally and then basically usher in the digital, the digital system, how in the world would we be able to purchase something if we're going to have to convert our prepaid credit over to FRNs for them to accept it?
Well, it's a big question of whether we're going to, have a completely clean new system based on prepaid credit. Or, in other words, your assumption that we would have to convert to FRNs in order to make an exchange is up in the air. It might not be that way. Because remember, the true value in the system is based on the United States silver dollar. And so that's what we would be exchanging against. And on that basis, what the vendor is being paid is what the vendor has chosen. So if the vendor wants to be paid in Federal Reserve notes, they can be paid in Federal Reserve notes by converting our AFD to US dollars and our US dollars to Federal Reserve notes, because there is an established exchange rate between US dollars and Federal Reserve notes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Do you think we're still on board to be active before October, or do you see anything holding us up?
I can't see anything that would hold us up till October.
Okay, that's fantastic. And one other quick question about you mentioned that Trump is I didn't catch all the details last week, but you mentioned that Trump is doing something with the Treasury and the Fed. He's allowing the military to take it over. Do you still feel at this point that we're talking about the evil military or the good military?
For the most part, I characterize it as the clueless military.
Those are a good one.
But they are trying, and at least some of the higher up echelons of the military do get it. They understand what we're saying and who we are and what we've done and why we've done it. So, where it counts, the military is gaining the knowledge. And that's a good thing. But it also means that we have yet another bureaucracy that we have to deal with. And that's always a bummer. Mr. Trump doesn't necessarily understand that his executive orders don't apply to everybody. For example, it's been very challenging to deal with the Trump administration, which on some levels is so gung-ho and so pro-American, right? But on another level, another venue, if you will, is so completely clueless. We really don't know what to expect of Trump taking over the Fed.
Fair enough. Thank you very much for taking the time to answer that. And I just wanted to say thank you very, very much for the clarification, because unfortunately it does become a game of telephone sometimes amongst the other ASNs. So it's great to hear it from the horse's mouth. Thank you very much, and I yield.
I would try to whinny, but I'm too tired.
Thank you, Anna.
Good night.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Hi, Anna. Uh, Thank you for all the support you've been giving to us in California. I really appreciate it. I just want to let you know I'm doing fine. I'm even having time to take Argentine tango dance lessons.
Oh,
But
dear.
meanwhile, I'm still struggling a little bit about what I should be doing with my stamps that have been requested that I return, and I've got 2 more days. But or else the sheriff may come to collect them, and I think I'm just going to box them up to remain in honor, and ship them back, and pursue whatever after that. So pursue it very peacefully and calmly. So that's where I'm at right now. It's kind of strange for me, but that's what I wanted to let you know. I'm doing well, and I'm still going strong. So with that, I yield.
David, if you're doing Argentine tango dancing, you're doing a lot better than me. Okay, I'm in awe. That's great. There was a mistake, a miscommunication about your recorder status. It's not affected at all by what happened with the coordinator team. You did not trespass upon your recorder privilege or role or duty or anything. You did not abuse the recorder service or contact list. And so I think that was just an error. And, I've talked to the state recorder there, the California state recorder, and she now realizes that it was a mistake and that you have not been included in that, and your recorder duties have not been included in that. So I think you've got nothing to worry about, and I'm certain that the sheriff isn't going to be called on you.
Good.
So
I wouldn't mind that, but my wife would be terrorized.
right. Well, no, we did some clearing up of the decks here this past week, and the misunderstanding is perhaps everybody was kind of keyed up by what happened and didn't want to have that going on in the assembly anymore. We've had enough of that kind of stuff go on. And so the General Assembly meeting basically said, no more, we're done with that. And but I think they included you by mistake. And so on the 13th, I hear it's the 13th or the 11th, they're having another General Assembly meeting, and that will be the time to clear that up. And if need be, I will show up at that meeting and explain it to everybody. But yeah, that was a mistake.
Who will be showing up to explain it? Am I going to be the one to explain it, or what?
Well, like I say, I believe it's a week, and
Yeah, it's the August 13th.
yeah, if need be, I'll show up to explain it. But Michelle knows what's going on too.
Yeah, excellent.
Everybody who matters in terms of, getting the word out and explaining what went on and holding you harmless, knows.
Thank you very much. I yield. I don't want to take any more of your time, but you're looking good today. Thank you.
It's an accident. It's an act of God. Honestly, I'm run ragged, and I have a broken bone in my foot, and I have a stiff neck, and I'm still here.
And thank you for being here, because we only know a fraction of all that you go through just to be here every week, Anna. Thank you so much.
So I yield twice. Thank you. Bye-bye.
David. All right, next up we've got Rocky Roper. Go ahead, Rocky.
How you doing there, Anna?
Good.
The question I have is, how do the counties on the state go about communicating what their needs are to their state assembly? Are we supposed to have delegates or representative officials elected to be part of the state assembly, international business assembly, like as a county delegate to communicate or the county's needs to them on a regular basis?
Well, they're separate jurisdictions. So they basically just do their own thing within their own jurisdiction. If you are going to be expressing your concerns at the state assembly level, you're not doing it as a county, you're doing it as a member of the state assembly. So, obviously, if you live in a county and say there's an issue in your county, say that you're having problems with water quality in a specific drainage area because of a factory dumping crud into the water, okay? Well, it's affecting the people in the county and it's affecting your quality of life. But when you go to the State International Business Assembly, you're going as a member of the state assembly as well as the county assembly, right? And
Okay.
you're saying, hey, we got this problem in Giroux County that is caused by Oscar Mayer's meat packing plant not properly processing its effluent water. And it's caused 6 cases of sepsis and 10 cases of E. coli. What you go there and you tell them this, and then it's the duty of the State International Business Assembly to go to Oscar Mayer, which is a U.S. corporation, right? It's a foreign corporation, to go to them and say, hey, look, you got to clean up your act here, guys.
So you go there as an individual or you go there as a committee?
You could go either way. But when you go, you're going as state assembly members. You're not going as county assembly members.
Okay.
Because even though it is a county concern, it's a local concern, the surface water is, pollution is a state issue. Okay, so when you want to, when you've got a problem with a corporation, you want to be handling it at the state level. When you've got a problem with a local farmer, you want to approach him as a living man first and foremost and give him the option of, coming to terms with caring about you and caring about your issue. So you go through the process of trying to make peace with your brother first, right?
Right, exactly.
And if you can't get anywhere and it's continuing to be a big public nuisance and you can't live with it, and well, then you start down the other track, and you have to then step back and start viewing it in terms of, well, is this really a local issue? Is it a soil jurisdiction issue, or is it a state jurisdiction issue? And if it's really something that the International Business Assembly can't handle, it's a local issue, and sometimes you need to get a second set of eyes on something to kind of eyeball it and determine whether it's a local issue or a state issue, or if in some way it overlaps and is both. But
Okay.
anyway,
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. The second thing I wanted to ask is the counties together all call a Congress, and the state of the union together calls a Congress. What is the different roles of these two Congresses? Which Congress will need to be called first to get our American government back on track?
Well, in all likelihood, it will be the states that are called to Congress, because the states
Buffer.
What?
Buffer.
Oh, it's in the garage. I closed the door.
Thank you.
Mike.
Okay, good. It's going to be the state assembly Congress members and their delegates first, because the international business is what we always have as the hot plate issue. And so it's most likely that the state assembly will send its delegates to a land jurisdiction Congress first. And then the union states will follow up as a national Congress, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So you've got you've got the International Congress and you got the National Congress.
Right.
You got the Land Jurisdiction Congress, which is like the Continental Congress is a land jurisdiction Congress. And then the soil jurisdiction Congress is a separate delineation of Congress.
Mhm.
When you start really studying all this stuff, you'll see that there are like 10 different Congresses,
Wow.
you know, and they're all slightly different descriptions. You know,
Mhm.
you've got the Congress of the several states and Congress assembled. You've got the United States in Congress assembled. You've got all these different variations of names that tell you that this Congress is a Congress of the Confederation of States, and this is a Congress of the Union States, and this is a Congress of the
Mhm.
British territorial states, and so on. It's fascinating and it's confusing, but I think
Good.
that the first dodge is going to be doing a continental Congress, a land jurisdiction Congress of the states of the Union. And that will help solidify both the national understanding and the international understanding.
Would that go through the international business, the state Congress, or is that just the state in general?
Normally, you choose your delegates from the International Business Assembly, number one, because they tend to be the ones that are most up to date on all the different issues.
Mhm.
But also because they're the ones that have the responsibility of being singularly devoted to your state and its welfare.
Okay. Thank you.
So, when they go, when you choose a congressional delegation for the State of the Union, it's from the International Business Assembly.
Okay. Thank you very much. I yield.
Take care, Ricky.
You too.
Oh, by the way, I did invoke your name when I was talking to Harold this week. He was getting back up on his feet and beginning to feel a little bit feisty, and I said, "Rock on!"
Good for him. I never did get your call, but I did send you my phone number.
Oh,
If
okay.
you remembered.
I will look.
Okay. Well, anyway, I yelled. Let somebody else talk. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rocky. Okay, next up, we've got Mike McGowan. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. Hi, Anna. Wanted to ask, I know Terry was working or saying that they were trying to do some third notices on using the indemnity bond process. And I was wondering if that could be extended out. There's a lot of people in our assemblies that don't have mortgages, and we've got people living on the street. And it's wonderful to think that we're going to fix mortgages and those issues, but there's a lot of others that may be in more dire. And I know you're working on all different kinds of avenues to get relief, and it sounds like it might be coming sooner than later. But I was wondering if there was a way to partner. For instance, I'm the tin hat wearer in the family, and so I haven't gotten any of my relatives to jump on board yet, but they're kind of waiting. It's like, well, tell us if there's any real banking, things out there. And I was wondering, if I were to go to my sister who's not in any issues, and she hasn't papered up, obviously, but yeah, but I have, and if there would be a way to partner with somebody like that to say, well, we could use the indemnity to pay your mortgage off if you'll take a savings of 50% on the mortgage being paid off and use that money was directed towards that to help me out. And that way, if I'm on the street or whatever, that I could utilize those funds and just draw up a simple agreement that would allow that to happen, so long as the funds were needed or the normal mortgage would have run out or whatever. Just a more of a handshake type agreement, but it would provide opportunity to take advantage and fix maybe some of the other kinds of issues that we're having out there, and also draw these people in a little bit closer to see that, oh wow, if they really had an opportunity to get the mortgage thing fixed, then maybe we need to go ahead and paper up. And then maybe I could have two people in my county and start actually doing something from this end. I yield.
That's a good thing. Unfortunately, a lot of people pardon me,
That's it.
a lot of people cling to their chains. It's like the Stockholm syndrome where they start defending their captors because they're dependent on their captors. And they cling to their chains. And I've seen it. Pardon me.
Bless you.
Thousands of times where people come out into the sunshine and they're free and they're standing on the land and soil and it feels so good. And then at the unthinkingly, they turn around, they walk right back into the burning building and lock their cell door again. And it's really very hard to deal with, but that's true. Now, the indemnity bond, indemnity is a form of insurance that exempts you from having to pay a charge that's being made by these corporations. So it's like an insurance policy or like an insurance claim. You don't make an insurance claim until something has happened. You know, you've got car insurance, so you wait and hopefully you don't ever have to make an insurance claim, but you wait until there's an accident to make the claim. Right? And the indemnity fund is the same. When you have a situation where you really need an indemnity bond because of improper claims and not claiming your exemption, then you've got things like mortgages. You've got things like major loans you can't pay back. You've got medical bills you can't pay back. You've got actual charges that are in your name that are, hanging over your head and that are causing you to lose your home or causing you to be emotionally distraught because you're so upset and worried and unable to deal with it, okay? So as a corporation, you can go bankrupt. You can carry private insurance. Or as one of the people, you can be indemnified. So it's a form of insurance. And it exempts you from paying these gigantic bills that you're unable to pay. But you do want to have a bill. And if you were to be doing the sort of trade that you're describing, it would probably be viewed as less than honest. And it would be probably subject to recoupment and prosecution and fraud charges and that sort of thing that you wouldn't want to get into.
Gotcha.
There are all sorts of things in place that will yield remedy for a vast number of people. We have something, at the latest report I saw was something 16 million vacant homes that are just standing vacant. And we have about half that amount of people that are known to be homeless. And we probably have double or triple that amount of people who actually functionally are homeless because they're living with relatives or friends. And so we've got more than enough homeless people and more than enough vacated homes so that we could match them up and we could make a go of it. So at the end of the day, we're going to wind up inheriting those vacant homes, and we're going to have to do a lot of maintenance on them and, do a lot of work when the banks are converted or nationalized is the more popular term for that. But one of the immediate and oddball things is that because we're suffering a population collapse at the same time that all the rest of this stuff is going on, there are going to be more homes in the market than there are people who could even inhabit them, much less buy them, but inhabit them and take care of them. So I think that what you're going to be looking at in short order is that they will be matching up people with specific needs or people with specific skills to take over as caretakers of these properties while the whole mess is getting sorted out. And you'll have the stipends that you'll be able to use to, pay things like utilities and food. But yeah, there'll be a big change in the public's perception of how you get a home and what a home is, and sort of the caretaking functions that you've been doing for free on your homes all your lives will suddenly matter. You won't just be doing all of this for free for your own sake. You'll be also doing it as a matter that you can do remodels and maintenance and actually get paid back for that. And for those who are homeless, like I say, with the population collapse we've got going on, there'll probably be 3 to 5 homes per person available in this country. So those who are homeless, just look at the numbers and realize that sooner or later you're going to be given a home, and you'll be employed to take that home, or you'll be employed to hired to supervise the reconstruction or maintenance, because otherwise all of this investment is going to go down the drain. And so when you're looking at a housing glut of that proportion, it's only going to deepen as more and more people die as a result of the COVID-19 injections. Homelessness will be the least of our problems. Coming to grips with the death of so many people will be right there at the tip top of the list. And many, what's going to happen here is you're going to have basically a slow building wave of people that are dying of the COVID injections. And it's going to be like a 3-step wave. It's going to go up, and then it's going to go up, and then it's go up. And after that, you're going to see another weird little thing, kind of blip at the end of it all. And that's going to represent all of the immigrants that were induced to come here, who received the shot as they came over the border. So you're going to see another wave of deaths that occur somewhere 3 to 5 years after the first big wave hits. So the people who came here across the border were vaccinated, and basically they're condemned to the same thing. But in any event, the idea that the immigrants were going to take over all the excess housing is not true. They were induced to cross over our border under false pretenses. They were then redefined as Americans arbitrarily and without the support of our law or custom, that they were declared citizens by certain corporations and claimed as chattel, as human chattel. And the only reason that this was done, really, other than causing a lot of disruption and political debate, is that when they crossed over our border and became redefined as citizens, they also gained greatly in value as livestock. And the best way I can describe this to you is if you think of, say a prize-winning bull, and he has a $2,000 stud fee, and he's won all sorts of awards and shows, and is a very valuable animal, right? Well, what if you could take this seedy little critter that has no record at all and has never won a show or anything, but you could suddenly increase its value to be the same as the prize bull. That's kind of how this whole thing has worked with the newly made manufactured Americans. They went from being worth $100,000 in the marketplace to being worth $100 billion in the marketplace. And so when they die, which is the object of all of this fiendish crap, when they die and their estate then goes back into the pile of ill-gotten gains, the big pile of mittens in the school gymnasium, when their estate goes back into that big pile, guess who benefits? The government. So this has all been manipulation by very venal commercial corporations intent on benefiting their bottom line by creating more valuable collateral for themselves to borrow against. And they didn't care. You know, they were ruthless. They injected these people as they came over the border, full well knowing that they were going to die within 7 years. And basically that was their answer to the medium-term loan problem. They couldn't get medium-term notes for their banks, so they brought in living people and used them as term-limited investments. And their term limit is going to be limited by the fact that everybody who got the Pfizer vaccine has an estimated 7 years maximum to live, according to Pfizer's own research. It's 100. It was in their studies. It was 100% died within 7 years.
One other quick question, Anna. I'm on my quest to try to find some other third-party verifications, so it's easier to convince people that what we're doing is real. And I was wondering if you've heard anything from the World Court on Trump not having standing, because I think if they produce an opinion and he does something else, at least it's a good solid block that we could present, from their letterhead that shows, hey, there really is something going on.
Well, Mr. Trump is in the enviable position of being recognized as the commander-in-chief of our military. And they don't have any control over him. The U.S. has never consented to the authority of the World Court, and they simply came to the World Court to present a commercial claim against us and our assets, our land assets specifically. But they couldn't do that because, well, they could have done that successfully if nobody else with better standing and a better claim hadn't showed up. But as it turned out, other people did show up, and they had standing and they had a better claim. So that's why Mr. Trump went away empty-handed. It's not that he couldn't have succeeded. It's that
Right, but I would think that the letter or whatever they produced, the snippet, and the fact that the case was presented and that he went home with his tail between his legs, that would be a powerful thing for us to be able to say, yeah, things are going on in the international realm.
Well, it just depends on how fast the court gets around to doing this, because, they can move very swiftly or they can drag their feet. And my experience with this is that there are numerous issues attendant upon this, that it's not just who properly owns the land and why. It's also a matter of all of the illegal things and the unlawful things that have been done. You're talking about one little snippet, which is very important. But however, it's also attached to a whole bunch of other issues, such as the over 5,000 large private family trusts that have been latched upon illegally by these vermin. You've got the various schemes that have been used, the birth certificate bonding, which has rendered people debtors at birth. You've got this multiple generation skipping trusts that have been set up and then claimed by the British monarch and by the Pope under bona vacantia, which is another huge swindle based on lack of disclosure. You've got President Trump off here in the left field creating treasury accounts for everyone in the country, and basically trying to give them $1,000 of their own credit as an excuse to latch upon their bodies and their given names and everything else is chattel. And all of this is being brought forward. All of this is being reported. all the martial and legal authorities, all the international commercial courts, everybody is getting blindsided with this all at once. And it just kind of grows and grows and grows because the extent of the fiscal cancer, if you will, is so large and so entrenched that each time that this kind of denouement happens, the court gets blown back on its feet and is left standing there going, oh my God, what now? You know, what do we do? Who's affected? Who can stand as a claimant? Who can stand as an injured party?
Sure.
You know, and this has happened repeatedly over the last 6 weeks, where the court has been, you know, prepared to make a ruling about one thing, but then an associated issue arises and they get hit in the face with the proverbial half-frozen halibut, and they're left going, oh, well, does this affect what we already have on our plate? Yes or no? If it does, or if it potentially does, then what do we have to do with this? Do we have to subject it to prosecution in the criminal court? Do we have to consider this as also a civil matter, because it has ramifications in terms of whose money is what, you know? So I guess I'm telling you, I'm not surprised that they haven't come out with a determination on that one issue that was contended between Trump and Chief Fast Horse, and later, slightly later, by myself and my claim on behalf of the American people. So I'm not surprised that it's delayed, and I'm not surprised the whole thing will probably become such a ball of wax that they have to cut it in half and give half to the International Criminal Court, because there's criminal activity involved in all of this. Yeah, it's just an incredible ball of wax for any court to even begin to consider, even when it's simplified and even when it's, you know, more than adequately presented. And you've got an example of that same thing going on in the Netherlands right now, where Bill Gates and Albert Bourla and some of these other monsters were put on trial in a little Dutch district court. And the trial went forward even though they arrested the lead attorney and threw him in jail for 120 days. A second backup attorney went and made the presentation anyway, and they're expecting a determination by the court in 3 weeks. Well, most likely, you're looking at a much longer term delay in getting a decision out of that than 3 weeks. Now, I can't say that for sure, but looking in my crystal ball, and you know, the common experiences of it is that once all that stuff that was presented in the court record becomes part of the court record and becomes public and is easily accessible, you're going to see a rash of related cases.
Sure. Well, yeah, it's just so sad because, you know, and I don't know if the system is just so slow to respond, or purposing to just hide everything. And we know that's true too. You know, I know that on your the Anna von Reitz site, you have the documents, and you granted jurisdiction to the court. And you know, I tried to research just that to see if there's even a case number on the you know, or that they had record of receiving that. And I did both ends. You know, the court ignored my request, and of course I just did it by their website. But then I went to USPS because you had the registration number on there, and they don't even have record of the mail being sent. And it's like, wow, these are just such dead ends of things that would be wonderful to have some solid pieces to say, you know, it's not all just talk. There's real stuff going on in the bigger picture view. But on our end, you know, I tried to go to small claims court over a claim on having Department of Natural Resources come out and trespass on my property even after I'd filed the land patent. And of course, they acquiesced to the notices that and claims that I made. And so I took them to small claims court to reduce it down to $7,500. And the court refuses to even consider. They dropped it, even though I said that the attorney that came on board for them didn't present and match my standing as an affidavit, because I did statement in form of an affidavit, and dismissed it for fraud using the Eugene process. And they just went over the top and just ignored the whole thing and said, yeah, we agree with the attorney that isn't officially on the record. And it's just sad that we haven't gotten anywhere at the level, down here on the the grassroots level.
The best that you can expect is dismissal and exoneration of their charges, recognition of your exemption. And that's because of the way they're being misadministered from the top levels down. This is partially Mr. Trump's fault, because his administration hasn't got a firm hand on it yet, to a point where they're actually doing what should be done with these cases. Realize that these courts aren't actually courts. They're actually collection agencies. They're bill collectors. And so the assumption that you have that they're about justice or about acting upon the law or that sort of thing, it's really, it's not justified. What they're doing is following by rote a set of procedures and rules and policies that were set up by these same corporations that employ them as tribunals. And so you go in there and you're complaining about the way they administer their policies and rules and the fact that they misaddressed you and your property. And they say, we don't care because you're already guilty. You're already judged guilty unless proven innocent. And we don't even have to listen to the law or the facts. We can just simply, hold you responsible on the basis of our conferring 14th Amendment citizenship on you. And this is the way these courts actually operate. And the whole process of exoneration, after you've served them due notice and done the whole rigmarole of providing them notice, your option then is to take it to the state of state Supreme Court on a writ of mandamus and say, look, we provided them due process and service, and they ignored me. At which point the state of state Supreme Court has they have no other way around it than to dismiss the charges against you. But it's ridiculous that we have to go through all of this in order to simply get something that should be provided to us with no questions asked. And that is to be left alone. And, we're not asking anything from them. We haven't injured anyone. And so the correct answer is for them to leave us alone and to, refrain from making any charges against us, or refrain from disturbing our peace, trespassing, or doing anything else. They need to just plain flat out leave us alone. And, at a certain point, you get good at making them leave you alone. That doesn't mean that you get good at getting any satisfaction out of them in terms of money. You have to realize that they don't have any money. The only money they have is your money, which they are spending. And they're spending your money as a loan. So everything that they spend fighting you is a loan from you, allowing them to fight you. Now, this is an untenable situation for a number of reasons, but most particularly because they don't have the authority to use your money for this purpose. And this is the kind of thing that we are seeking redress from and solutions for in terms of us actually getting a systemic remedy and relief from them. And when I'm saying that, I'm not saying that we're expecting to get it from them voluntarily. We're expecting that enough pressure can be brought to bear to make them cease and desist from what they're doing and simply back off, leave us alone, leave our property intact. And at that point, will declare a minor Pyrrhic victory in that we have, at great cost and lots of energy, obtained what we most urgently and immediately needed, which is simply to be exempt and left alone. There are a lot of different things that have gone on that are international crimes, and crimes against the Constitution and crimes against the public law. Criminal prosecution is always singularly unhappy and unsatisfying, okay? It has to be done, but it's not the kind of thing that anybody recoups any great satisfaction from. However, I'm convinced that we're better off sometimes bringing criminal prosecutions instead of trying to address them as a commercial entity, because many of these people are, I don't really even know what to describe it as. They are wrong. They may know that they are wrong to an extent, one way or another, and they're doing it anyway. So in a situation like that, the best thing is a good offense. And, you know, being able to adequately describe exactly what your injury is becomes key. I myself have no problem pressing charges against bureaucrats that are acting improperly. And it has virtually always the same results, and that is that the bureaucrat may get slapped on the wrist and the case gets dismissed, which seems like a pathetic end result, but nonetheless does result in being left alone and not having your property attacked. Right now in the litigation committee, we're trying to come up with a silver bullet approach that anybody can use to wave these courts off. And now when they send us a summons, we just politely send them a reply back and shine them on the way they shine us on. And so we're hard at work trying to come up with exactly the right verbiage that applies to all cases of being summoned before a district court. And so it's not a problem we're unaware of. It's something that we're hoping will have systemic remedy soon, but it's also something that we realize we're going to have to, in all likelihood, continue to fight at different levels all over the country. And yes, we are aware that some state organizations are more crooked than others. So those struggles are going to be harder in those battleground states than they are generally speaking. The states that are shaping up as battleground states, and this is mainly because of the way that the substitution fraud that occurred after the Civil War was laid down and administered. These battleground states, the ABA lawyers are just more and more corrupt than you can even believe. And so those states are the ones where it's going to be hardest to basically secure relief from the constant attacks and constant bad behavior on the part of our public employees. I'm sorry, Mike, but there really isn't an instant answer, and there's no way to force the international commercial courts to operate any better or faster than they do. For the most part, I've been impressed that they have been honest and they have rendered good decisions. But when does it become public? I've seen the U.S. Supreme Court sit on decisions that were made back in the 1980s. They make the decision goes into effect, the wheels turn, the government miscreants review and change their operations, but the public may never know. It may simply be the sort of thing where it results in a different direction or different administration. So we won't know until the other shoe drops, and I don't expect to know for at least another 6 weeks.
What about if
Um,
the banking side of it is going and we have all these claims and they acquiesce to everything, will we be able to go through them and punish them in essence as a commercial entity and take things from them?
Well, what we'll most likely do is what is called lawful conversion or nationalization of the banks that are guilty. So, all of a sudden the banks will be doing business under a different form of law, serving a different clientele, and you probably won't even notice the difference right away. It'll simply happen, and because they're functioning under a different form of law and are serving a different kind of clientele, you'll suddenly see that the bankers are much more civil, much more approachable, and are engaged in caring about their communities and their clients more. That'll be the you'll hear about it because of us and what we do, but the big change for Joe Average on the street will be that all of a sudden the banks are eager to make loans, and they're eager to distribute prepaid credit, and they're eager to do all the things that they need to do to serve people instead of persons, right? So those are the sorts of things that happen. They don't ever want to admit guilt. They don't want to admit that they did something wrong. That's because they're afraid of the commercial liability that may be attached to such an admission, and also because the actual resolution of the controversy is now in your hand because they've defaulted. You now have the right to make up your own remedy on those issues that you gave notice to and defaulted them on. And, if you send a writ of mandamus to the state Supreme Court and say, hey, these guys defaulted, here's my process, and here's what I want. I want the charges dropped and all record of it exonerated, for example. Or I want that, plus I want 3 times the damage that these yahoos did to me, bringing these false and unsupported claims. Okay, so say that it cost you $7,000 worth of time and material and energy to rebut them and to provide them with due notice. You can have every option and every right when you put in the writ of mandamus, which would be mercifully short, a page or less, to request 3 times the damages. So you could request $21,000 in damages simply as a declaration based on their non-performance.
Yeah, I'll give that a try.
Yeah, because they owe you performance and they haven't provided it. They also owe you clarity concerning who they are, what they are, in what capacity they're acting, and they haven't done that either, have they?
No.
So we all keep fighting these fights, and slowly more and more people are becoming aware. And it may seem like you've put in a lot of effort to do something and it hasn't been recognized, or it's been dropped, but it hasn't been exonerated, or whatever. You keep fighting anyway until the dog is down and dead, right? You just have, you have to keep on with being aware of the fact that they're operating in a way that is criminal, and you are in the right, and you will obtain justice because you're stubborn enough to stay in the fight.
Right. Well, give her a try. Thank you. I yield.
I will.
Thank you, Mike.
Guys, everybody, can you the last 4 here? Can you rush through? Give me yes or no's.
Yes or no questions would be great. All right, Anita. Hopefully a yes or no question.
Yes, real quick. Months ago, you told us when we were in our banks to get a memo balance on our checking and savings and that the bank would cover that should anything go wrong. Is that still correct?
Yeah, that's our bank would cover it, not their bank.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you. I yield. Have a good night.
Good night.
A perfect question. Okay. All right. We've got one more hand up, Anna. You're in the home stretch. Annette on Marion. Go ahead, Annette.
Thank you so much. And I don't know how you can still stay positive and laugh. Thank God you do. I want to ask, we have had a weird phenomena happen on our county, and literally all the people that we know of have all gotten delinquent tax notices, even if they're only they were due in April. And even if they were just due in April, everybody was getting delinquent tax notices. Is that just the cabal or the bad guys, the de facto, whatever, trying to push us all to our limits? Or any take on what they're that desperate for money or what might be happening?
They are that desperate for money.
Wow.
They are on the ropes.
Okay.
They are absolutely clawing, scratching, coming up with any kind of scheme or demand or false claim, anything that they can bring up.
Well,
And
I want to thank Kimberly for going through such extents and being open to everyone with her personal plight that she's going through. Dear God, no water even is unbelievable. But thank you very much for going into depth with her, because that's going to help us to kind of move forward with your process to get these properties done. We were using Ron, but of course, he's passed. But okay, thank you with that. Is the Brunson brothers case going to have an impact on helping all of us as they head, through the Supreme Court and they decide that the whole de facto government is in fact bogus because they didn't follow protocol anyways?
well, by whatever means it's defaulted, it's a commercial corporation and a default is a default. And the Brunson brothers have one theory, and it's within the realm of commerce, okay?
Uh-huh.
So, it's entirely possible that they will default them from the commercial side. We've already defaulted them from the side of the public law long ago. And now it's just a matter of bringing enough pressure and leverage upon them in the court of public opinion to get rid of them or to make peace with them. We've always been willing to make peace. We've declared peace. We've made it clear that we are at peace. We have not been at war. We never even engaged in the War of 18, the Civil War. The actual states of the Union never engaged in the Civil War. Wow. So, it couldn't be much more plain that we're innocent third parties and they are acting as run amok public employees who have grossly overstepped their authority and created great suffering for their own unjust enrichment.
So between the Brunson brothers and the all this stuff going on, that is actually in our best interest then they would move forward, that it's just going to be beneficial to us.
Well, it's going to directly be beneficial to the state, to the federal employees and federal citizens. It's going to be most beneficial to the federal citizenry, okay? Because that's going to release them from a lot of debt and a lot of liability, okay? It's going to throw it back on the principals instead. And
okay.
So, it's a good thing for people that have been in or are in that foreign status of being a federal citizen. And it may then open up opportunities for us to make peace with the new leadership that arises. But I have to tell you that, to date, Mr. Trump has held steady on the idea of basically sneaking into what appears to be our federal republic and replacing it with a British territorial version of a federal republic. And that's just more British Navy crap. We don't need that. What we need is an actual clear the air, clear the decks, be honest, do the right thing. That's what we need. We need, as a country, we need the federal employees to do the right thing by their employers, and to recognize their employers and to cease and desist all of this fraudulent constructive fraud crap where, they're trying to pretend that their employers are part of their dependents or their employee base.
Okay.
They're-
Talking about dependence, if I could, just because I'm trying to make it, that you can get off this call. The children, people under 21. There's been a lot, a lot of people. We're a model county, and so we get a lot of calls from other counties, and that seems to be problematic for a lot of young people. And so we're not getting them, jumping from the baby deeds into full-fledged members of our assemblies because they are upset that they don't have any ID. Is there any
They
proposal
can
in the
have an
works?
ID. They can have an ID under their parents' bank account. They can have an ID actually issued to them. My son travels under an ID. Yeah, so
I'm missing how you mean that. So the LRO will issue them an ID?
the LRO can issue them an ID, but they just they're not a full-fledged member of the state assembly until they turn 21. An
Okay.
ID is just an ID, okay?
All right. So how would we ask Paul to create such a thing then for these young people?
You would just explain to Paul that they are, that they're 16.
Yes.
So they're not full-fledged members of the assembly, but they are the dependents of at least a full-fledged member of the assembly. And they need an ID to get around and do things like learning how to drive and that sort of thing. So yes, by all means, they can have an ID. An ID is just an ID. The
Thank you.
ID is it's all part of the bogus martial law requirement that you need to be able to prove who you are if you are asked in a martial
Correct.
law occupation setting.
Okay, thank you very much. And for myself, my kids don't have socials, they don't have anything. So they're really pushing me. Thank you. And then last question, you had suggested last week that we could start our own credit union. Do you have, for the counties, for the state, do you have any direction you could lead us into to do such a thing? Because we're all game for it. And so we've talked at length with other counties and they seem very excited about that.
Well, the conventional banker, the banking association that is talking, it goes around and it calls itself a National Banking Association. It's not our nation, okay? It's their nation that they're talking about. And they're not talking about our banks, they're talking about their banks and their credit association.
Okay.
So, you're not going to be able to network with them except as a U.S. U.S. capital C citizen.
Darn it. Okay.
Okay.
So it just because, to do the day-to-day operations of counties, and the cost associated and people are using their own, Venmo cards and PayPal cards and all of that. It would be just so much better if we could have a process by which funds could move back and forth until the AFDs are available. And I think and I know you told me last week that the people will get the funds first. So that puts the counties and the states at a little bit of a perplexed situation because we were trying to figure out on our state, they have increased all the counties by a 1% county tax. And we were trying to figure out how to use that 1% county tax to our benefit if we can, get this hog roped and tied to take back the power, that 1% would be more than sufficient to run our skeleton structure and to start actually doing business, or if using that term, on the counties.
Well, we're not going to have any taxes at all.
Sweet. You're making a lot of people happy. Thank you for saying that.
Well, there's no need for taxes. There's never been a need for taxes. Taxes are used for coercive purposes. It's been more than 100 years since there was any need for taxes. And, it's just shameful that they've continued not only exercising taxation, but also using it coercively.
So how do we pay our subcontractors to do roads and to, make sure everything's still operating and clean and, the regular functions of a county then?
Honey, baby, darling, dear, they've got thousands of times more than enough money to give us 10 times more service than they do.
Nice. Well, I want to thank you, and however you did that, and however we are all so grateful. I'm sure I'm speaking for everyone. We're so grateful, whatever you pulled off in the Vatican and whatever you're pulling off right now. And I know you work so hard. We thank you so much for your time and for your efforts. And I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me, and have a beautiful, beautiful night.
You too.
Awesome, Annette. Thank you so much. And Anna, all right, we're going to wrap this up, but I've been biting my tongue. I've been waiting for this moment. Because I didn't know until yesterday, until I read your email, that state assembly recording secretaries are federation employees, not state. That was new news. So that's number one. Number two, I don't know if you know this or not, but when someone gets status corrected and published on the LRO, their email address isn't provided to the California or to the assemblies. I know for sure not California, and I assume it's the same for other states. So what would you say if there were state recorders, state assembly recording secretaries who never introduce who they're helping to the California Assembly? They don't say, hey, guess what? I status corrected, 3 people this week or this month. This is who they are, and this is how we can reach them. But what has been happening for the last, at least 2 years, that contact information, those email addresses are never provided to the California Assembly for outreach efforts. So there seems to be, a kind of deadlock. But one of the things that I noticed is, we are with a capital T, California Assembly, right? But there's this phenomenon kind of hanging out on the side called California Assembly, right? Without the capital T. And, we've got some volunteers on California, some of which have stamps and seals, right? And embossers and stuff because they came through the right way. But some of them don't, they don't introduce anybody that they help to our assembly. And we never get to hear about them. But miraculously, somehow there's talk about California Assembly, not the California Assembly. So it gets very confusing. And
we've had this repeatedly with California. They want to do a new state. They want to be a separate country. And there are those of us who live in the rest of the United States that are so sick and tired of California, Gavin Newsom, riots, fires, all of it. We're so sick of California that we would just as soon see the San Andreas Fault give way and have an island a nice 60 miles or so off our coast. I personally have never dealt with anything like California, ever. And I understand that it's because it has a unique history and a unique geography, and because it's this tremendously large, rich state, and it takes up most of our West Coast, and it has these 2 huge urban areas that are, ethnically worlds apart, in the north and the south. And then you have this large area in the center that is, and to the east that is mostly rural. Okay? I understand that your university system has been taken over for many decades by mostly radical socialists and communists trying to inculcate weird ideas and all sorts of socialist garbage and class struggle ideas that don't exist. And really, we're all just against the same vermin that have been pulling all this crap with our money and controlling our economy. Anyway, I understand it all. But I have to say that pound for pound, California is the most wrong-headed, mean, uncooperative. It beggars description. You
Yeah.
know, it's opinionated without having done the work. Okay, everybody has these strong opinions, but nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to follow the rules. Nobody wants to actually think about what they're doing. They want to operate on their indoctrination, whatever that is, and they're very uncomfortable doing anything but operate on their indoctrination. And I blame this up to the California school system and the California university system, which, while it is some of the best in the world in some respects, is some of the worst in the world in others. And so when it comes to traditional American values, understanding self responsibility and self-governance, having a moral code, being aware of other people and the consequences of your actions, not only for yourself, but for entire groups of people. There's no consciousness of that in California for the most part. I mean, there are people who are exceptional and who are wonderful, and I'm glad that we have so many of them in the California Assembly as we do. But we also, because it is such a large state, we wind up getting a constant influx of people who are coming at you, more to put it this way, from many different directions. You know, you've got the rampant socialists, you've got the atheists, you've got the anti-everything anarchists. It's a very, very daunting proposition. Plus, you have large multinational and ethnic coalitions working in California, not all of which are good. I mean, you've got some real bad apples in California. You've got drug cartels, you've got gangs, you've got you know, criminal elements from around the world in California. And so, frankly, Michelle, I don't know how you keep up with it or do it. But
You know what it is? I think it was, I think I was influenced when I was a kid when I saw Star Wars, right? And it was like, you know, there's the droid, and then there's the princess, and then there's the guy with the lightsaber, and then it's like, okay, we're dealing with the Empire, and the Empire's going down. We are not going to tolerate this, right? So,
right.
and it's so big. It's so big, and so it's so unbelievable that all I can do is lean on my faith. That's all I have. And the people that show up every day, the people that won't, they won't allow, you know, they won't allow the pain of the setbacks and the harm, the pain and the harm. It's unbelievable. It's actually unbelievable. And prayer helps. That's about it.
Well, you know, sometimes you get into these situations and it is entirely the grace of God or nature's God, whatever you want to say. It is not something that comes from our human strength, our people's strength at all. It's something quite beyond us. And I guess I'm looking like more and more like Mark Hamill every day, but not a good look for a woman. But anyway.
We just need to get you a couple of Cinnabons, you know, like.
Yeah, but really, if you're having trouble with recorders performing, if you're having trouble with, you know, recorders being cooperative, we can contact them and, you know, give them a kind of, here's how recorders should be working with cooperatively with the assemblies, and not just California. Same thing with the international recording secretaries and recording secretaries that work for the bank. I'm not sure how well or what they've been able to do so far in terms of getting monthly reports back to the assemblies, giving them new contact information so that they can do outreach, but they're supposed to, you know. And so there are provisions for that, there are plans for that, and that is something that
Yeah,
ultimately,
and when the people of the California Assembly recognize, you know, that kind of behavior or similar behaviors that are just simply wrongheaded, and they try to, in good faith, protect the assembly and the assets of the assembly for the, protect the people and their assets, right? That's what the people, I'm an eyewitness to that. People are trying their really, people are really trying to do it right and get it right when they see something wrong.
yeah,
And they're struggling with how to do it right when there's something, it's like if there's smoke, there's fire, right? And so the California Assembly, I'm an eyewitness, they're having a difficult time because what happens is when they call, hey, Anna, fire, we got to do something about it. Sometimes what ends up happening is, I don't know why it's this way, but the people that have the California Assembly take action to try to self-govern, sometimes their decision gets overlooked or overturned because not all of the information is presented, let's say, to you or to Terry. And so it's we want to make sure that the California Assembly operates honorably, peacefully, lawfully, and tries to self-govern. And so we would really, I'm looking forward to you coming on the 13th and giving us some great, tools that we can use that are in the best interest of making sure that this thing called California Assembly, and I'm not talking about de facto, I'm talking about this, these BCC lists of people, you know what I mean? How do we protect ourselves, when, I don't know if there's a word for it, but I think the word is imposter. There's like an imposter. And, we don't really know how to deal with that. We're not really totally equipped. And so anyhow.
Let me explain for everybody, since this is the coordinator training, let's get all of the coordinators and would-be coordinators and, trainees on this one subject of the LRO. The LRO was developed as what we call a training wheels program. We realized that all of the states would need to do land recording functions, but none of them would initially, right out of the box, be guaranteed to have the IT skill or, the personnel needed to do the function, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we developed the LRO as a venue where each state could take over their little section, right, their account within the LRO, and use it to do their land recording functions and get their feet wet and understand what the entailed and what the responsibilities were and all that. So, but the intention was always that each state, as it matured and as it firmed up and as it really gained traction, would have its own LRO of its, totally under its own IT network, under its own power, okay? So the reason that the current LRO and the system is under federation control and guidance is that it's a federation project, okay? It was paid for by the federation. It's owned by me and my position as the fiduciary. It's run by Terry and IT people that volunteer to keep it alive and safe, okay? And, it's at this point, it's kind of a federation training program that has a viable, useful function to it, okay? Now, when you get on your feet and everybody is stood up and you're rev roaring and you have your streams of income and you have everything set up, you'll want to have your own land recording office that is a state land recording office that's under state direction and state IT and state everything, okay? And there's nothing stopping you from doing that. And when the time comes, you can just migrate all the information off of the Federation LRO and directly into your state system. And that's, you know, the ultimate, just like when your child grows up and they are learning to ride a bicycle, okay? We were providing the LRO in exactly that way so that you could learn the function and have a system to do it. But we're not saying that the LRO is the ultimate best function, or, you know, or the best system, or the only system, or the system you have to have. We're just saying, okay, this is how land recording works. This is, you know, what you do. And, you know, we're training, okay? And when the day comes that you have your own land recording office and it's under your own auspices, then you'll be totally responsible for training your recorders and for giving them their commissions and, you know, their credentials and their stamps and everything else will all be under your control as the state. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Is, you know, the baby birds grow up, they get out of the nest and they start fluttering around on their own. And, you know, that's what we expect. That's what we want, okay, frankly. We're not trying to push everybody and make everybody grow at the same rate. You know, we're not expecting Rhode Island to have the same problems or face the same difficulties of California or vice versa. It's just that there was a need that we recognized, and we filled that need for our fledgling state assemblies, and we are fully in the anticipation of the day when it will be a total state recording office and a total state everything.
Well, I will tell you this. We do, I know that you know who Joey Novak is. He was a Continental Marshal for a long time before he decided he wanted to focus on local. And he's been developing an LRO. So it's probably a couple more months before it'll be like launched and ready, but it's exciting. He's been working on it and it's going to be really, really nice. So
good. Well, now and see if you get your system up and running, then, you know, just like what Lisa in Ohio has done, you know, the pilot things that you do and the programs that you get going can be used to help educate and help other states. And, you know, this is a cooperative effort. And there's nothing, the Federation is not standing in anybody's way, right? We're just trying to do our own work and trying to keep everybody together and focused on developing their part of it, you know, each state. And when the day comes that all the states are fully functional and funded and everybody is doing their work and taking their part of self-governance seriously, that is going to be a day, if I'm still alive, I will be more than happy to pour myself a glass of champagne and sit in the shade and be an old lady in Big Lake, Alaska.
yeah, well, you know what? I don't think I'm totally alone when I want, you know, I want to picture you when everything's accomplished. It's like, you know, not in 100 years, but like, you know, a couple of years, 5 years, maybe we could do this, you guys. What do you think? Maybe we can be so successful because Anna has taught us so much that Anna could retire. How about that for a goal where Anna gets to finally put her feet up and have some champagne and spend some time with Jim?
Yeah, well, you know, as far as we're concerned, we are looking for people who are younger than we are to train and to talk with and to bring forward, to reinvigorate and bring new blood at the Federation level, because we're going to need them.
Yeah.
And every year that goes by, I'm reminded by the number of deaths and the number of illnesses, just how elderly our Federation personnel really are. When I tell you that I'm almost 70 and I'm among the young sprouts, I'm not joking. And so we definitely need younger people to come forward and serve at the Federation level. And we need people to come forward and be serious students and really take in the information so that I'm not a single source, okay? I'm not even one of 6 sources or 10 sources or 20 sources, but so that we suddenly have people who are at least competent in one area and really good at that one thing, and who can then help all the others. You know, because this is not just self-governance, this is self-help. Okay, we're in it for helping ourselves as a group, right? But the reason to do this is that unless you do it, you're going to be basically bossed around and treated like cattle. You're going to be farmed and taken advantage of by those who are motivated by wealth and by power to lord it over others. So you just have to be tough enough to say, no, I can rule myself, thank you. And I can do my part to rule my state.
That's what we signed up for. So we're doing it one bite at a time, one step at a time.
Yes, well, I've got this wonderful cartoon that was done by Paul Snover that was a gift to Harold and I, and it was the 2 mice eating the elephant. We started off with 2 mice, and there are a lot more of us now worldwide than I could even believe. I was amazed that just one podcast uplink to to another group, you know, and there are hundreds of these links that go out every week. Just one had 123,000 viewers.
Nice. That's what I'm talking about. Numbers like that, it is, you know, it's right around the corner. It's right there.
And it's spreading worldwide. You know, we now have the INAC assembly meeting every Thursday too. And we get plenty of questions from all around the world and all sorts of information coming in from all around the world. So it's not just us in this country anymore. It's spreading. And I'm often impressed that people in other countries are more aware of our history than we are.
Yes.
And that's really sad and humbling, because there are people all over this planet who have cared more about this country and its history than our own public schools. You know?
Yeah. Well, it was by design. I think they intended that all along. They were going to turn us into farm animals and then have their way with us and turn us into, you know, this technocracy thing that they're trying to develop right now.
Right. Well, that's the way J.D. Rockefeller and, you know, the Rothschilds and the rest of the heinous ones think. They have no consideration for other human beings. The Zionists don't consider anyone who's not a Zionist to be human. They don't even consider you to be at the level of an animal. Okay?
Right.
So they're hateful. They're just hate mongers. And have always been, and they've always had this very arrogant element of, you know, we're the chosen people and everybody else is dirt beneath our feet because we're chosen and you're not. Well, you know, I said to one of them one day, I noticed that my Hindu friends regularly get their prayers answered. And I noticed that, you know, no matter what, my Protestant friends get their prayers answered. And my Catholic friends get their prayers answered. And my Muslim friends get their prayers answered. And, you know, obviously, whatever is meant by the chosen, it didn't mean that God wasn't answering their prayers too.
Yeah, I think the common denominator there is prayers.
Well, right, but you know, this whole idea that there's one group of people that are uniquely set above all others, I just don't see the evidence of it. And if they're honest, neither do any of the Jewish folks that I've been able to engage in this conversation, because it looks like they're getting their noses bumped and wiped and getting their butts spanked at every moment. You know? Really. I mean, they're the most set upon group of people in world history.
Mhm.
And you have to step back and go, well, what were you chosen for? Martyrdom? You know, what is this all about? You know, anyway, the whole situation in Israel is so problematic for the whole world right now. And I know I'm not alone in feeling great relief, and it's ironic relief, but it's relief that Israel has finally been clipped and put in a position where it cannot continue to be this rabid animal.
Yeah. Yeah. State of Israel. Oof.
Yeah, state of
Right.
a franchise of
Right.
the USA Inc. And the whole idea, you know, at least by China, Iran, and Russia all combining their forces together has made that an untenable situation for Israel and for the USA Inc.
Yeah. Well, we could go on and on and on, but I should probably let you go.
At some point here, I do have to go and attend to the rest of the duties of the day. So anyway, guys, glad we had a chance here to discuss many things. I hope that people have learned a few things that were worth a couple hours of their time. All right, well, good night.
I'm gonna say absolutely. That was a great night. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful night, ladies. Everybody, good night.
God bless you, Anna.
Good night, Anna.
God bless you, Anna.
Girls, good night, boys.
We'll keep we'll keep you in our prayers.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Michelle.
Thank you, Anna and everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Michelle.
Good night, Al.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Michelle. Thank you.
Go ye forth and multiply, everybody. We'll see you next week.